It's Friday night. You're alone at home. Your homework is done and you want to spend some time with that special someone. But how do you choose to reach out to them?
I would say texting is my preferred method of communication.
Texting, because it's faster.
Calling so people can tell if I'm being sarcastic or not.
Okay.
It's hard over text message.
Personally, I'd prefer the call, but I feel like it's easier to text because it's more convenient.
It would be calling because, I like to hear the person's voice. But with texting, sometimes people text, like my friend, she texts in uppercase letters. So it seems like she's yelling at me, but she's not yelling. That's just how she texts. So I'd rather talk to someone over the phone. I think it's better. You can hear their tone.
I think most people, no matter the age, would agree conversations via text can often leave people lost in translation. But if that's the case, why do so many of us opt to engage in drawn-out text battles or sliding in a person's DMs rather than talk to them in person? What are we so afraid of?
Part of how we have adapted to technology is to use it a little bit to help mitigate that anxiety. Because to send the email or to send the text feels a little bit more comfortable than addressing the person either face-to-face or over the phone.
Totally.
So I think in a way we've adapted it so that we don't have to push ourselves out of that comfort zone.
Dr. Fallon Karch is an interpersonal family and communication theories professor at Fresno State. With her extensive research in interpersonal relationships and non-traditional family types, I felt it necessary to get her perspective on how romance and communication has evolved in the digital age.
One of the things that first pops out when you ask that question about one of the changes is actually how we develop those relationships. I was just having a conversation in my communication theory class about asking somebody on a date. And most of the students in that class are traditional college age, but I have a couple of non-traditional students who are from a different generation in that class as well. So I posed the question of, so what would we expect that date request to look like? And I wanted them to be as specific as possible because I was leading into a conversation about what happens when people violate our expectations.
When you've never met anybody but online and then you really finally meet them in person, they're someone completely different than who you text.
I spoke with criminology major at Fresno State, David Leone, about his experience in relationships facilitated through technology. He says he feels social media is like a dating site as well. It just depends on how you use it. And personally, he's even admitted to have been on Tinder. I asked him if he had much luck in the dating game with swiping left or right.
I've been catfished before, so I kind of know the business of what it is to use an app to online date or to meet people.
The reason I didn't go on Tinder for a while is because I took it as a hookup app. And I think in the beginning it really was just for hookups. I had people on Tinder who were just like, hey, I'm just looking to have sex. I'm just like, well, thank you for your honesty. That's what I'm looking for. And that was it. I'm never going to be mad at someone for being blunt and forward. Thanks for not wasting my time. Carry on. Have a nice day.
That's not to say there aren't happy beginnings with finding love online. Fresno State student Kanisha Daly met her boyfriend of almost a year ago on the infamous Tinder app.
Going into Tinder, I did not at all expect to find a boyfriend. Especially someone I'm actually in love with and we're planning our future together and whatnot. But I think that also helps is not having too high of expectations, and that really takes away a lot of the stress of dating.
Dr. Karch further elaborates on the fact that there's less of a stigma now with utilizing technology in finding a partner. Using dating apps or social media just gives us innumerable options to develop relationships or connections with other people.
It creates additional opportunities for us relationally to stay in connection with people, to get a hold of people, to meet people. And that in and of itself is neutral, right? Or maybe swings a little bit to the positive. It's nice to have more options that I could take advantage of if I so choose. I think the key always is, so how am I utilizing it? So in the context of dating apps, am I being honest with other people about what it is that I'm looking for, right? Like, it's totally okay to say, I'm not looking for anything serious. I'm looking for something that's casual. I'm looking for something that it only is going to last one night. As long as I'm honest with that and the other person is able to decide, okay, that's what I'm looking for too, so we are a match, then I think it's perfectly appropriate.
With instant access to information and even potential romance, does that lessen our perception of value on said relationships?
Men are not into labels. I've never met a female who was just like, no, I'm just, to see what happens, just have a good time. But the guys don't want labels. Every woman I know wants a label. So there's some discrepancies in expectations of our genders.
I am a college student, so I like living that life. I don't have any kids, so I am only responsible for myself.
Julian Cano, an accounting major at Fresno State, discusses the parameters of even if you're not an official couple, figuring out what that relationship will entail can save a lot of heartache and stress.
I definitely feel it's something that people need to talk about with one another. Are we going out? Are we just seeing each other? Or are we just messing around? I think it's definitely worthwhile to figure out what kind of relationship you have with somebody else and the terms of said relationship. That makes everything run so much more smoothly.
Dr. Karch explains that the medium to which we as millennials communicate is quite different than previous generations. However, the presumption of transparency within the relationship is crucial to a healthy partnership, meaning labels and each other's expectations can be beneficial if established early on in the relationship.
I think when we think about it in terms of the interpersonal relationships, there can be some pros and cons to it, right? That also means that I'm taking the relational step of identifying that we're in a committed monogamous relationship. And we have certainly seen the social trends to where people are waiting longer to get into serious relationships.
According to the Pew Research Center, in 2016, the median age for a first marriage was age 27 for women and age 29 for men, roughly 7 years more than the median age in 1960. At the same time, more adults are living with a partner instead of marrying and raising children outside of marriage. So I wondered, how important is it to millennials to get married in their lives right now?
Whoa, to get married?
Not important. I can really take care of myself.
As of right now, it's not too important, but later on, as I get older, maybe in my later 20s, it might be a priority because my life isn't in order right now. So financially and maybe mentally too, I need to prepare myself for a marriage.
For me personally, it's non-existent. I do not care about it. I feel like people put too much of a stigma on marriage.
As of right now, it's not something that I want on the table. I think marriage before used to be based off of social expectations and then a way to secure like your wealth, your possessions. Now the way that the economy is set up, people don't really have possessions to secure. People don't own homes like they used to. So getting married financially, what is the positive of that? There isn't really one. And then socially, no one really expects people to get married for the most part, depending on your social class. It varies. You don't have to be married to have children now. Marriage isn't much of a priority, but for me, eventually, I do want that additional stability. That me and someone are on the same page. The fact that someone is legally obligated to love me is also a nice addition.
Well, that's all for now. Tune in next time for more in-depth and personal topics next time. Thanks for listening, and be good to one another. This is Monet Schlotterbeck with Fresno State Focus, Radio Edition.